In Mortal Kombat 11, Skarlet and Sub-Zero have a very interesting matchup. They both have risks and advantages at nearly every distance and can challenge each other at what they do best in very different ways. At a high level, both combatants must weigh the risks behind every decision. To know these risks and decisions, we're going to dive right in. Mormel here, and we're matching up Skarlet with Sub-Zero. This video will focus on the matchup between these two at game start distance. I'll first talk a little bit about what this means. Game start distance is the amount of space between Skarlet and Sub-Zero at the beginning of round 1 in each game. It is static and does not change. Game start distance is not the same as round start distance, which deserves its own video in the future. For now, however, we'll start at the beginning of the fight. First, we'll look at every attack Sub-Zero can start with that reaches Skarlet at this distance. Starting with back 1, a decent option at game start for Sub-Zero. This attack is 1 frame later than most of Skarlet's attacks at this range, and Sub-Zero would rather use this move for both punishes, confirming block attacks, and punishing strings that end at minus 15 frames or more. Forward 2, Sub-Zero's 19 frame overhead. An even slower attack than back 1, game start distance gives Sub-Zero a relatively weak overhead low game. The only low attack that will reach this distance is an 11 frame slide. If Skarlet anticipates this strategy, she'll have more than enough time to block low for more than 11 frames and stand block before the 20th frame. Trying this online, however, may be a different story. Forward 4, a very bad, not good move at game start distance. It's just a not good move at all in general. It's very punishable, so Sub-Zero will likely never use this at game start distance. Back forward 3, Sub-Zero's low slide. It is Sub-Zero's fastest attack to reach at game start distance, and faster than any of Skarlet's options at this distance as well, with a crushing blow attached if landed often enough. For this reason alone, it is a very powerful tool, but if Skarlet knows it's his best option, then she may have 20 frames to do something about it. Very risky, but very rewarding. Down forward 1, a very good projectile in general. While Sub-Zero can combo if Skarlet gets hit from Ice Ball, even when he gets knocked down from a trade, Sub-Zero prefers to use this move at a safer distance due to its slow startup. Moving on to Sub-Zero's back 1 strings. Back 1-4 can be a decent stagger, just be aware that if the first move whiffs, Sub-Zero is close enough to Skarlet to get flawless block up 2'd for a combo conversion. 1-4-3, Sub-Zero's full string before a special cancel. By itself it's safe on block if he managed to get the back 1 out first. Sub-Zero prefers to end his string with this or creeping ice to stay safe. When Skarlet gets hit, Sub-Zero will confirm instead with a slide. Back 1-4-3 into Ice Ball. Generally, it's a poor decision. It might be good to punish Skarlets who expect a different special cancel, but it can be very reliably punished. Back 1-4-3 into Creeping Ice. Interestingly enough, this is safe on block unamplified. Back 1-4-3 pushes Skarlet away to make both her frame 7 and frame 10 attacks whiff. Sub-Zero prefers to end his strings at 1-4-3 or to cancel into Creeping Ice if Skarlet doesn't get opened up. Back 1-4-3 into Arctic Trap. If Sub-Zero ever does this, it's likely because it was done by accident. Not a good special cancel for this string because of how easily it can be punished. Back 1-4-3 into Slide. Because Sub-Zero has no overhead specials, Skarlet really has no trouble blocking low for any other specials or strings, making this one of his least safe special cancels for this string. Forward 2-4. Sub-Zero gets a crushing blow if it counters or punishes, so it should only be used for doing just that. It's safer for Sub-Zero to simply stagger with the overhead alone, or special cancel after the 4, but never forward 2-4 by itself. Many special cancels from the last string carry over here with one notable difference. Forward 2 into Creeping Ice brings Sub-Zero close enough to get punished by Skarlet's D1 and standing 4-4, unlike the previous string. It is not recommended to use this string without amplifying. Forward 2 into Creeping Ice Amplified. Safer than not amplified, but not perfect either. While it ends at -6 frames, which is safe on block, Skarlet is able to flawless block the amplified attack and up 3 the block attack, leaving her at a 12 frame advantage. It's better than nothing. Defensive options for Skarlet at game start distance. If Skarlet anticipates a slide that beats all of her offensive options at game start distance, all she has to do is take a step back and neutral jump. Taking a small step back before neutral jumping makes Sub-Zero's overhead and Ice Ball whiff more consistently and brings her closer to him after a whiffed slide. A jump kick will also very consistently hit Sub-Zero if he continues any of his strings, or Skarlet can jump 2 into a ground combo. When attempting to jump 2 to punish Sub-Zero's forward 2-4, Skarlet needs to time her J2 immediately before she begins falling back down. Otherwise, she can risk receiving a crushing blow for her trouble. Moving on to Skarlet's starting attacks at game start distance. Back 1 is typically used for whiff punishing because of its crushing blow, and back 1-2. But at game start distance, it's far too slow. This attack can be punished at normal block by Sub-Zero's 11 frame slide. Normal 2. It can also be punished by slide at normal block. Despite this weakness, this move has 2 separate hitboxes during its animation, letting it reach far and reach high at 2 separate instances. It also will stuff every one of Sub-Zero's attacks except slide. Just as risky as slide, so understanding the habits of your opponent is crucial in deciding the best course of action. Back 4, Skarlet's premier low poke. At max range, this move is safe from block from Sub-Zero's slide due to its travel time. However, at game start distance, it can be punished. For Blood Drive variation, this is Skarlet's premier low attack to force a restand if Sub-Zero tries neutral ducking the slow ball. We'll talk more about that when we get there. Back 3, Skarlet's 13 frame low poke. While it obviously doesn't have the same vertical height as forward 2, this is a relatively fast low that can force a lot of Sub-Zeros stay still and crouch block. But be careful due to its normal block slide gap when staggering this move with no special cancel. Back forward 2, Skarlet's Bloodshot. This fast-moving projectile can check a lot of forward movement outside of game start distance with a heal when amplified. However, it's simply too slow to consider at this distance. Down back 2, Skarlet's Blood Ball. While Blood Drive variation has a lot of shenanigans with amplified slow ball, unamplified it's still slow and big enough to catch a lot of jump-ins and controlling the space in front of her. But if Skarlet doesn't want to use Bloodshot at game start distance, she definitely doesn't want to use Blood Ball here either. Down back 4, Skarlet's Blood Tentacle. This checks a lot of Sub-Zero movement at zoning distance by forcing him to jump over or stay still in block due to Blood Tentacle being a mid. Sub-Zero also cannot low profile this move and often trades with slide as a result. The only slide gap here is a flawless block one, so it is relatively safe. Just don't use it raw at game start distance because it's too slow. Down back 3, Skarlet's Blood Trail. Amplified, this special gives Skarlet her dangerous restand corner game and checks ground movement at zoning distance. This move has a slide gap only from flawless block, but it's too slow for any use at game start distance anyway. Moving on to Skarlet's forward 2 strings that are worth covering, starting with forward 2-1. Because of forward 2's long reach and wide hitbox, confirming the string into forward 2-1 is a fairly reliable method of locking down Sub-Zero. It is safe on normal block, but has a flawless slide gap. Many of Skarlet's strings are not only susceptible to block attacks, but also Sub-Zero's slide, which costs no meter to punish Skarlet with. Skarlet then prefers to stagger forward 2-1 with a healthy mix of forward 2 and other special cancels. But even then, she is never completely safe. Forward 2 into back forward 2, Skarlet's Bloodshot special cancel. Scarlet prefers this string to switch things up on Sub-Zero. Where forward 2-1 suffers from a slide gap on Flawless Block, this string is safe on block even when Sub-Zero Flawless blocks both attacks. Don't be predictable with this string either, however, as Sub-Zero can low profile the Bloodshot if he knows it's coming after normal blocking the forward 2. Forward 2 into down back 4, Scarlet's Blood Tentacle special cancel. This move is virtually identical in function as forward 2-1, with the added benefit of keeping Scarlet at a farther distance. It also suffers from a flawless slide gap as well. Scarlet's consideration then are the risks and benefits to being closer or farther away from her previous position when deciding between F2 Blood Tentacle and F2-1. This means that you have options. Use this opportunity to gain as much advantage as you can. Moving on to Scarlet's back 3 strings, starting with back 3-4. The string itself is good for catching Sub-Zero's jump kicks and frame trapping him after a standing 4-4. However, at game start distance, this is a terrible option for Scarlet because despite being safe from slide on Flawless Block, if Sub-Zero gets hit from back 3, then the following 4 will whiff. Back 3 into down back 4, Scarlet's Blood Tentacle special cancel. This was a very interesting discovery for me personally, and it's worth sharing. While this string has a flawless gap, Sub-Zero is actually unable to flawless block the Blood Tentacle unless he flawless blocks the back 3 first. If he can't do that, then it's safe on block. Sub-Zero players, get to labbing. Back 3 into back forward 2, Scarlet's Bloodshot special cancel. This string also has a limited flawless gap, meaning Sub-Zero has to flawless block both attacks in order to block attack or slide punish Scarlet's final hit. It's -1 on block as opposed to -6, but Sub-Zero can also low profile the projectile with slide on normal block, albeit with a smaller window than flawless block. There's not really a point in discussing Scarlet's back 1 strings because honestly, Scarlet has better options available. She will only be using back 1 for back 1-2 for the crushing blow or as an anti-air, so we'll be looking at precisely that. Back 1 had to take a step back when she sees Sub-Zero jumping in. Typically, it is easier for back 1 to connect during Sub-Zero's jump kick startup animation, but also when he gets close enough in general. The vertical hitbox of back 1-2 makes connecting relatively easy for Scarlet to do. On the topic of Sub-Zero jump-ins, nearly every anti-air option Scarlet has involved stepping back except for down 2. Down 2 is Scarlet's uppercut and is not a very good anti-air at all. She has better moves for attempting that. One said option is back 3-4. This allows Scarlet to step far enough away to whiff punish the jump attack from a relatively safe distance. Standing 4-4 is also just as good, and it allows you to follow up with a special cancel as well. Both of these benefit from a high vertical hitbox. While 2-1-2 may give you more damage, consistency and practicality is, in my opinion, just as valuable. Shout out to Blood Drive Variation Cell Siphon. With 3 active frames, it makes timing the attack more consistent than the previously mentioned options. If Sub-Zero throws out a jump attack, the startup animations will extend his hurt box right into your Cell Siphon, snatching him from high in the air into a restand. This is one of Scarlet's more consistent anti-air options. And that's the matchup. A relatively small part of the fight and a fairly reasonable place to start this video series. We'll be covering more aspects of this matchup in the future, such as ideal distance and how to properly zone Sub-Zero with Scarlet, close distance and how good Scarlet's parry really is, and finally, round start distance and how to win and lose a round to attain next round Okizeme. Be sure to look out for those in the future. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything or if you still have any questions that I may have missed. This is Mormel, and this was Matching Up Scarlet for Sub-Zero at Game Distance.